Welcome to the Journey of Self. This is your coach Mehnaz Amjad. In this series, we will be embarking on a journey together with an intention to help you take one step closer to your best self. This series is designed to obstacles that are holding you back from living your best life. Let's get started. Our today's title is Promote Your Mental Health with a technique called Being in the Here and Now. In our session today, I would like to teach you this technique, which I had developed over a period of time with my coaching and journaling experience. I first used this technique with my client who would suffer from a lot of anxiety just like me. She would constantly stay just stressed out and in a worried state of mind. She was one of my clients who I had coached for the longest time. And many a times when I would inquire and coached her, momentarily it would benefit her. But again, post the coaching sessions, she was back to her anxious state. So I decided to make few changes and develop a technique that would not just help her, but anyone in her position who find it difficult to overcome their anxious and stressed state of mind. So what I came up with was I asked her to record her thoughts on a plain white sheet or in a notebook. And towards the end of every day, I asked her to categorize her thoughts into two categories, whether the thought belonged to her past or to her future. After doing this activity for almost close to more than 3 weeks, she was surprised by what she found. Almost the entire 2 weeks, in fact, more than 2 weeks, she found that she was either dwelling in her past or was fearful of the future that never came into existence. Then I asked her, what is it that worried you more, your past or your future? She replied, the past made her sad. This is for the fact that she was well aware we cannot reverse time, nor can we do anything about it. And this is precisely the reason why most of us only dwell on our past, because subconsciously our brain is aware that we cannot do anything about it. In her case, it was a very similar result. She said her past made her sad, but the future worried her. And then I asked her, how likely do you think the future that worries you, all the thoughts about it and things that are making you stressed and anxious, do you really think how much of that is true? She paused for a moment and replied that most of what she really feared, she found that was not true. Almost 90% of it was not true, which means it had no facts. It was just a thought. And then when I also asked her, were there any chances that in the past, whatever you feared about came true? All these years of your worry and anxiety, did you ever found that your fearful thoughts actually unfolded exactly as you have thought them to? And she was actually surprised with her own reply, because she sat, reflected, and answered this one question, where I sat with her in silence for almost close to more than 40 minutes. And she replied that actually most of what she feared never came into existence. So friends, if you are one of those people, and and I can also say this for my own case. There was a time when I had severe chronic bouts of anxiety. I inherited anxiety from my grandmother and father and my own traumas. And there's been a period in my life where I had suffered a lot of anxiety. And this technique helped me. But I made some changes in this technique and I taught it to my client. And here's what I'm sharing with you today. If you ever find yourself worrying too much about your future, if you find yourself someone with a worry behavior, like you get very easily stressed out and worried, and it could be about anything, remember two things. Future is something that none of us know what it entails. It's a creation of our own mind, of thoughts that our subconscious mind has gathered from our growing years. So most of it we also inherit from our ancestors, if they've been those people who've been through traumas and stressed and anxiety. Our genetics through which we carry that in ourselves can also make us anxious. It's not necessarily that you're anxious and stressed because you are for a reason. It could be also you have inherited, just like me, in your genes. So to keep our mind healthy and happy and in a stay away from this anxious and stressed state of mind, try this technique. It's very simple. All you have to do is pen it down, write your thoughts. There are no rules for it. You could write it in the morning, evening, whenever these thoughts, this anxiety and stress are kind of creating an impact in your day-to-day life. So try and pen them down. And once you do it, give it some time, give it some space, and come back to it. It could be a break of 5-10 minutes, or it could be you've written the thought in the morning and you come back to it in the evening, and then categorize it. Just look, observe your thought and see whether is it something from the past, or is it that you're worrying about your future. So you could just categorize it as a past or future. And you will find that a big chunk of our life and of our mind specific to thoughts are falling in either in our past or in our future. And one of the best ways to get rid of this is to live in the here and now, in the moment. This is also known as mindfulness, and there are many other names given to this particular practice. You must be also wondering, how come being in the moment help you stay less anxious and stressed? And to answer that, I would like to share with you a research that comes from a study published in the Journal of Psychiatry Research, which found that our brain, when we are present in the moment, we focus on a single task, has the capacity to change the concentration of our gray matter in the areas of our brain which are mostly involved in learning, memory, and regulating our emotions. So we worry and we say stressed when we are not focused on the moment. Our mind is wandering, and this wandering leads us to impact our nervous system, make us think, get anxious. Then we start thinking more and more about our future, about things which may never happen, which then impacts our overall state, mental state, or our brain health. And getting into this habit of constant worry may impact our brain health on a long-term basis. And one of the easiest ways to avoid this is to stay in the present. Get yourself focused and tell yourself, get back to the present. And try to focus on the task that you are in. You could be reading a newspaper, you could be walking, you could be you could be eating, you could be doing anything, but just ensure that you're present in the moment. You chuck the past and the future, you just let them both go, and you're in the moment. The moment you start using your conscious brain to stay in the moment, that's the precise time when your brain gets involved, gets focused, and it helps you regulate your emotions in a much effective and healthier way than in a state you are either dwelling in the past or thinking about the future. So if you really want to reduce your anxious state, have a healthy mind, constantly practice to be in the here and now. So the call to action for you is observe your thoughts, where they belong to, and constantly practice being in the here and now. It's one of the most difficult habits to cultivate, friends. I can say that from my own experience. But I would also add here a regular practice possible. Thank you for your time, and I'll talk to you soon.